Shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Yishai Fleisher Show, broadcasting live from Jerusalem to the world. You're a part of it wherever you are. And shalom and welcome to the Pardes Institute, and shalom and welcome to Rabbi Mike Feuer. Rabbi Mike, shalom.
Oh, shalom, Yishai. It's good
to have you back. Last week missed you. You were helping out your mom or
That's right.
doing other stuff. So it's good to have you back on the show. We did a lot of talking pre-show. We were talking about what's going on around the world, the kind of destabilized atmosphere that you have generally, including the tearing up of the State of the Union address by Nancy Pelosi right in back of President Trump.
It was a moment of either high political drama or just childish tantrum, depending on how you want to look at it.
But the value of it is the same, which is
the impact is the same.
Right, which is a breakdown of certain agreed to respects, certain agreed to like systems that even though we have our disagreements, we're going to play along these certain rules and give each other that kind of like...
Yeah, in many ways, I see it as the dramatic culmination of what's happened since President Trump took office.
Right.
The whole not my president movement, right, is eroding the institution of the presidency as much as it's a personal attack upon him. Right. And I not alone, and people have been saying it over and over again, should the Democrats ever return to office, they will discover that they've done themselves as much damage as they've done their opponents.
But let's talk about it a little like less locally in American terms and more just zoom out just a tad, which is like you have countries. The United States is a country that is based on, as you said before the show, covenant or agreement or basically
constitutional democracy. Yeah,
right. But I want to break it down to less complex words. To like, it's an idea that's agreed to by the people. Mm-hmm. And if you have a disagreement by the people, the idea starts to evaporate.
Yeah, and look, it's fraying on many levels of the discourse, the racial discourse in America, which, in all honesty, is one of the great myths of sort of the American agreement. Right, is that there's a good chunk of America that didn't agree and was brought there as slaves, and there's never been a real reckoning or reconciliation of that. So that's a big piece, right? Plus,
it's funny you say that because I would have said if there's any one country who like reckoned with a certain bit of dark past, it's the United States. Like they like actually did face it, talk about it, dealt with it. You know,
well, to a limited degree, but you see that the years between the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement are a pretty good indication that it was never really engaged. Not to give credit, I think you're correct. There was actually there were significant acts done, etc. But I think that the wound goes much deeper than people appreciate.
But I wanna get to yet a further outfield zoom, which is you have a global leader, which is kind of its foundations of agreement are being undermined, and therefore the very country is being kind of undermined. And you could say here's an irony. You know, economically speaking, that country, the United States, is in great shape ostensibly. Yep. China, the great competitor, is in some kind of also funk.
Bit on the ropes right now.
Right. I mean,
they managed to build a hospital in 10 days.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Did you see the pictures?
Yes, it's very Borg-like. Borg-like.
It was so Chinese. It was like, we don't care. I mean, we will just make it happen.
I'm still angry that they would name a virus after a beer. You know what I mean? I'm still upset about that.
I stockpiled limes. I've been waiting.
This is not funny. People are dying. Okay.
Not funny.
But okay, what I'm talking about is a general state. Here you have China is just in havoc. You have America, which is in an internal crisis, which is also very sad, this internal crisis. It's when you see somebody having a mental problem where you want to say to that person, hey, dude, just relax.
Or get some help.
Get some help. But like, it's okay. Everything's actually physically okay, but they're not okay. Here in Israel, you also have a state of affairs, which is... I think also in flux. You have a prime minister who on the one hand is really touting his greatest successes. On the other hand, he's on the verge of not being elected /
he's already been indicted.
He's been indicted, but
convicted potentially.
Right, convicted of what exactly I don't know, but whatever.
They'll figure it out when they decide.
Right. and you also have this peace initiative from the United States, which on the one hand really recognizes Jewish rights in Judea, recognizes the folly of some of the ways of the Palestinian Authority / PLO in terms of violence, supporting violence, and the belief that they're going to one day divide Jerusalem or destroy Jerusalem or have the refugees come in, and all those were kind of done away with. On the other hand, the resurgence of the idea of the two-state solution, the resurgence in my opinion, very sad resurgence of Israel being yet again a client state underneath an American kind of auspices where they will decide where the lines are and who will do what. And, a classic
notice
of
the intersection between those two. It's one thing to be a client state when Rome is at its height,
right.
in which case you don't have a choice, and at least you know that your patron is powerful. Right now, the shakeup and the instability within America, to have a posture of a client state, is actually simply to be bearing our throat to the other forces of the world,
right,
which sense the sort of blood in the water.
Right.
Because it's not just America. When America shakes right now, there's an ideal of what governance is and how to organize human society, which is under attack.
Right.
Because there are a lot of very strong other options out there.
I'm glad that you're coming to this. This is exactly what I wanted to discuss. That there's a tremor in the force, if you will. Okay. To use that metaphor. The Star Wars language. And that brings me actually to a Torah portion that one read of it is glorious victory.
Mm-hmm.
But another read of it is a tremor in the force of all stabilities are, many things are unstable in this week's Torah portion, including its kind of end, which is also, we'll see towards the end, like we're going to have Exodus, which is very unstable feeling.
Oh, yeah.
To the great moment of victory, but then back out to a new form of very troubling motif in the whole Bible, which is complaining Jews.
Oh, yeah. It's immediately, in fact.
Right, immediately. One of the most famous of the rabbinic explanations about the Exodus was the four groups of Jews that were at the sea. And they are four political parties, four perspectives of how to deal with the situation. One said, let us fight. We're going to have to fight, and we may very well lose. It may be a suicidal fight, but let's fight. Let's fight the Egyptians. Go down fighting. Right,
go down fighting.
And there's another group which says, let's jump into the sea just by committing suicide.
Yep.
One second, I always get these confused. We have one that says, let's go back down to Egypt.
Yep.
Just it's over. Submit.
Yes.
Submit. Makes a lot of sense.
Life was better as slaves.
Right, and okay, and here they come, and we lost, and that's
the reality.
Right, accept the reality. One says, damn it, just fight.
Better to die here in the desert with their sword in their hand.
Right. Another one says, this is the Gandhi version, let's just commit mass suicide.
Ooh.
But that was Gandhi's advice. That was Gandhi's advice to the Jews.
We've had this.
We'll show them. We'll show them. They'll be. I mean, to give it its fair shake in the court of public opinion, that is what happened in Masada, in a sense, right? Where they could have gone a few different ways, including being enslaved, and they chose never and to make the point. The only difference is...
Well, they took their own lives at Masada as opposed to trying to call upon the moral character of their enemies. Because remember, of course, Gandhi's goal was not mass suicide. Gandhi's goal was to awaken the moral within your enemy by refusing to resist.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
We agree or not agree. Let's at least present his position correctly.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Good. Okay. All right. But anyway, one more time. So we have the fight.
He was in with the British, not the Nazis.
Right. That's right. So we had fight. We had go down to Egypt, submit. We had commit mass suicide. And then we had let's call it, nobody take offense here, please. But I'm just trying to have fun with it. Let's call it the Haredi response, which is pray. let's go religious on this one, right? Which is, you can't present that to any Orthodox person without him being like, well, that's what we do.
That's what we do, man.
That's what we do. So those are the four options, which is go rebellious.
Go from or go home.
Go from or go home, go rebellious or go home, submit or go home, or commit mass suicide and go home, right? So those were and the sages explained, interestingly enough, that all four of those were wrong. All four of those, or let's put it this way, that wasn't the option that God wanted. He had a surprise option in store, and that surprise option can be summed up with these following two letters and one exclamation point, which is go.
Go, man.
Go. I wish I could name the show today Go.
Why can't you name the show?
I just don't think...
People aren't going to get it.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to get it. But really, like
How about the fifth option, go?
Go. That's the thing. Go.
Yeah.
Just go.
There's only one problem, is that when you're being told to go, there's a solid wall in front of you.
Right.
And that's the depth of that insight.
Right.
Is that I think oftentimes, it's a truism for individual life, I can tell you as a counselor, people are often very clear on the options available to them. And they think that the challenge they face is to figure out which one's the right one. Mm-hmm. Whereas more often than not, that is a construct that is trapping you from seeing that there's this fifth option, right, which offers real freedom.
Right.
You just have to get outside of the horizon of your thinking. It made perfect sense to me that no one suggested, hey guys, why don't we just walk into the sea and check if it'll split for us?
Right. There
was no fifth camp that was going to suggest that.
Right.
That had to come from outside.
Right. I think that's the point of the sages, that they're saying God had something else in store that you, mankind, did not. You couldn't have reasoned that. You couldn't have understood that. And he had a bigger show in mind. He had a bigger moment in mind, and one that was not, how should we say, human. It wasn't logical. It wasn't Spock-like. It wasn't.
It also, by the way, wasn't just for us, because my understanding of the fantastically wonderful midrash that Rashi brings down, that when the Red Sea split, that all the water in the whole world split.
Right.
You've seen this midrash Rashi brings, right?
Sure.
You know, like, picture some guy in Peru, like, is going to take a bath, and he's like, oh, and, like, what just happened? You know, what is the midrash?
Cups of coffee all over the world split.
Yeah, people are trying to get a drink from the water fountain. It's like going in two ways. You know, what does it mean that all the water in the world split? I think what it means is that once the Red Sea split, the fifth option became possible. And there was a horizon of possibility which opened up, in the sense that God says, go. Or the other thing really is God says, follow me. Right? And that type of emunah, that ability to see God in the world and to follow, now means that anything is possible. Mm-hmm. And that's how I understand. I don't take a literalist stance that every drop of the water split. It means that the world changed from that moment forward for all humanity.
And I mentioned Spock for a second because of the paradigm of Paragon.
This is not logical.
Right, illogical. And that reminds me of my good friend Arthur Alone, who today dedicated this show. Today's show is dedicated to Alone and Amy Rothstein, our good friends in Arizona, who are dedicating the show to Amy's father, Avraham ben Meir HaKohen. Today is his 11th yortzeit. Actually, it's the 12th of Shvat. We're here in Israel today today's the 10th of Shvat, which is when the Lubavitcher Rebbe first assumed his role as Lubavitcher Rebbe. That's a big holiday for the Chabad folks. So in 2 days from now, maybe when you're hearing the show, is the 12th of Shvat.
You're the ultimate Russian Jew. You just managed to mention Star Trek and the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the same sentence.
Joy is mine. So it's going to be the 11th yortzeit on the 12th of Shvat of Avraham ben Meir HaKohen. He was the patriarch of the family. He was very generous. He took care of the poor, educated young people very seriously, took these things seriously. He also served in the U.S. Navy, was a lawyer, a successful businessman, a loving father to his 3 daughters and all of his grandchildren. So he was a very sweet man and a successful man and a good man. And today's show is dedicated, and I love dedicating shows to people like Avraham ben Meir HaKohen. I just feel like it adds another level of what we're doing, which is sending this broadcast signal from Israel, from the land of Israel, from Jerusalem, about things that bring us all together. And if we have also a neshama that we could tie the show into, it just, boom, it anchors it and makes it so much stronger. So how should we say? His memory should be a blessing. His neshama should have an aliyah. And thank you so much for sponsoring today's show. And everybody out there should make a little l'chaim.
Should be zocha the arichas yamim too.
Amen. Very good. So we had these four parties, shall we say, right? 4 perspectives, 4 deals.
4 camps.
4 camps. They turned out to be not right. Who turned out to be right was the splitting of the Red Sea. And I one of my favorite thoughts that I ever had in my life was that I realized that Brit Bein Abtarim, the covenant between the parts, when God showed Avraham this splitting of these animals, and in the midst of it, he saw a pillar of fire and smoke walking through it, and he was saying, "For your children are going to be slaves in Egypt, in a land not theirs for 400 years, they're going to come out with success and great wealth. That this was a preview of that. This was a preview of that. So who is also winning is Abraham. There's an Abrahamic moment here. There's a moment of Abraham. And speaking of Abraham, not only are the children of Israel, the living ones, going through the Red Sea, but also the caskets of the tribe leaders. We learned that from the fact that it says that Moshe Rabbeinu went and fetched the bones of Joseph. Lots of midrashim around that. And Rashi says that also means through the language that he reads it, that the other tribe heads are also being carried. I wonder why the Torah wouldn't just say that. But in any case, the guy who brought the Jewish people down to Egypt through whose agency the whole thing happened, he is still in the picture, and he is being taken out. We're leaving it all. This reminds me of when my mom and sister made Aliyah a few years ago. That was the last people that I had as close family in America. Mm-hmm. And I knew that something had changed for me because I used to fly to America, and I used to go to my mom's house and see my mom, and it was a 2-for-1. Now I only fly for work to get something done, but like my personal relationship is no longer.
There's no rooted sense of place.
Right, there's no rooted sense of place, and it doesn't own me, and I don't own it, and it's only again through covenant now if we have any relationship, or through my other brothers and sisters that live there. But Joseph's bones are out. That means that like the whole thing, it's over.
We're taking the story with us.
We're taking the story with us, but that isn't exactly true, is it? Since we also have a verse inside the Torah portion which says that a fifth, chamushim alu, a fifth went, either they went up armed or they went up a fifth. Mm-hmm. Those are, by the way, not alike.
No. Well,
you know what I mean? You either went up armed.
Or only a fifth you got
right.
out. I mean, we could stretch it and try to figure out their relationship, but okay. We can also just say there's a tension in the language.
So we're taking the story out of Egypt, but not really. It's a little bit like Spain, right?
No, actually, I think that what you're saying in a painful way is emphasizing that we're taking the story out of Egypt. It's because the 4/5 of Am Yisrael, according to the Midrash, who stayed behind, were the ones who didn't get the story.
Right.
And it's an unfortunate reality of Jewish history that the maintenance of the story has never been about numbers. It has always been about those who, either through the grace of God or their own faith or some quirk of history, were the ones who actually followed the story. It starts here, but Spain is another example there. Less than a fifth made it out.
Right. We
could look at it with Ezra, Nehemiah, and Shivat Zion, and who actually managed to come up from Babel to rebuild the temple. And of course, closer to our own generation, right? You and I are sitting here now, and there are close to 6 million Jews in America. God willing, at least 1 million of them are listening to us right now.
Right.
And the door's not closed yet, people. But don't mistake the story.
I just want you to know, Rabbi Mike, that yesterday I gave a tour to 3 women's groups, 3 buses of Aish Destiny tours.
Oh, yeah.
In Hebron. I personally found it to be quite, quite an honor to be with the 3 women's groups in Hebron. And I was proud of Aish for coming to Hebron. And they gave me, Rabbi Mike, 30 minutes with everything. Wow. I, of course, stretched it to more, but it was absurdly short amount of time. Ridiculously
just to get
short
off
amount
on the bus takes that long.
Right. But you know what, though? Dayenu, we did it, and we did it good. And one of the women came up to me, a lady from Denver, told me that her husband was not a big fan of the settlements, was not a big fan of Orthodox perspective on Torah. Somehow she got onto listening to our show.
Oh, yeah.
And he got into it, and now he has changed his opinion very much on Jewish rights in Judea, much closer to understanding the perspective of traditional Torah Jewry, and is into it. They're really into it. And she took a selfie with me, and he sent back the words, "Shut the front door." Okay? Okay, as in he was excited to see me there. And I just want to tell you that our broadcasting is important. It touches people's lives. And it's actually transformative. It can be transformative. So it's important to keep broadcasting. Whenever I come back from America or whenever I'm, meet people like that, I always come up with the same sense inside, which is keep broadcasting. Broadcast. Keep doing it. Keep teaching. Keep sending the signal out. Keep pinging that signal. Because people, one ping only, because people need that signal. Okay, they need it. They need it out there. Speaking of the signal and somebody who doesn't get it, there's a verse there where it says that Pharaoh says, Sagar alehem hamidbar.
Right.
The desert closed in on them. They made a wrong turn.
Right.
And I thought that was a very instructive statement to understanding the mindset. It's like nature has failed them. They made a mistake. The error is there. Those 10 commandments were, I guess...
10 plagues, you mean?
10 plagues were some kind of fluke.
No, it's an astounding turnaround. And it's like you'd think after the death of the firstborn, he'd have figured God's got it under control. But no, yeah, he's just seeking. This is a testimony to how hard it is to actually break our paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when life offers us an opportunity to see things the way we want to, as opposed to the way we ought, then we will often go with it.
Mm-hmm. So he's still he has not changed his ways. He's stuck on that, and I guess as a therapist type of thing, you're going to say like we all have a little Pharaoh inside.
Yeah, I was going to go there, but I would say what I said is they don't undervalue the power of the stories that we live inside and how difficult it is to step out of them. It's possible, but Pharaoh would have had to actually decide who he wanted to be, other than simply in charge of his slaves. Mm-hmm. And that he wasn't ready to do, meaning God had beat him down. But, Pharaoh was still experiencing this whole struggle as a power struggle.
How do we make ourselves more pliable? How do we make ourselves more susceptible to change? People, a lot of times in the issue of, let's say, for example, Aliyah, I'm always like much kinder than some of my compatriots towards people who don't make Aliyah. I'm like, the hardest thing in the world really is change.
Yes.
Change is really the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Changing habits is hard. Changing a thing. Like how do we keep ourselves just a little less stiff in the change department?
I would say there's two basic steps. One is clarifying your values and being able to identify clearly, am I living up to the values that I hold, which opens a sort of line of pressure, so to speak, in trying to change and live up to those. But more importantly, in many ways, is you got to come to consciousness of what the stories that you live inside are telling you, right? An example that it's true, we'll go with the Aliyah, right? Financial constraints, or
the number one constraint on Aliyah always is family. Leaving family. Right. That's the number one.
Family, or what I do there, etc. I'm not saying these things are untrue. Don't get me wrong, right? But just notice that if that's the sole story that you see yourself as living inside, then of course that will lead to an inevitable conclusion, right? Sometimes you have to pick out the other storylines in your life and figure out, well, what would happen if?
Right.
What would happen if? Sometimes that is an important piece for making that space for change. There's a longer discourse there. Okay,
so we also have here in our Torah portion we're going to do this quickly because we did it last year, but we have to talk about it for just a second, which is this incredible phrase of Jewish cynicism / Jewish irony, Jewish humor, which is the famous phrase, the Egyptians are chasing after the Jews, they're all about to die, and they cry out to God, and then they say to Moses, are there no graves in Egypt that you took us to die in the desert? This line, are there no graves in Egypt, is not a necessary line in the Torah. They could have just said, we're going to die here in the desert. Why did you take us to die? But this phrase, are there no graves in Egypt, is a now, later on in the Torah portion, we're going to see that complaining Alan, what's his name? No, not Alan.
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen, like type of like Jewiness. Krechting and schmerting. Oh, there's no water. No, it can be great.
No graves in Egypt.
Right. It
has to be said that way.
Right. It's a problematic phrase, and yet at the same time, can it be understood that there is something in the Jewish psyche which even makes the jokes in the darkest hour?
Yeah, clearly so. I know you love that line.
just so
It's like your favorite line in the Torah.
It's like they didn't have to stick it in there, but it's the opening in this world to a little bit of dark humor. You know, it's just there's because the line before it says very clearly that v'yitzaku b'nei Israel el Hashem.
Yeah.
They did the right thing. They did the frum thing. They did the right thing.
And then at the end of Shachi, they turned to Moshe. By the way,
yeah. Did I tell you? Did I tell you that my feet hurt with this walking? Anyway, and then there's that phrase that Moshe takes. He is the agent for the Jewish people. He takes that cry and he sends it up to God. He gets a very surprising response. Why are you crying out to me?
Yeah, get moving.
Right, get moving, go.
Sa, Moshe, sa.
That's right. Sa, that's right. It's matitzak like daber b'nei Israel v'yisau. Go. There are times to go. And then there are great leaders sometimes in this world who have that capacity. Ben Gurion was one of those leaders. Like him, not like him. The moment where you have a chance under great stress, duress, and fear to announce a Jewish state, to announce that it's becoming an independent Israel, there's a lot of forces against you. You have to have a huge guts. You have to have Nachshon ben Aminadav type courage and breath.
And by the way, that's another answer to your question of how we make change. Like, you know that phrase, ready, aim, fire?
Right.
That is one of the greatest barriers to people making change in life. Because most people go ready, aim. Right? Because there's always, you could get a little tighter. Really, if you want to make change, it's ready, fire, aim. Right? And that's exactly what God says to Moshe. It's like, what do you want me to explain it all to you? Get moving, and you'll figure it out along the way. Ben Gurion says, we're going to declare a statement. It's like, you can't do it because of this. You can't do this. What are you going to do about it? He says, we'll figure that out.
Right.
Now is the moment. I'm letting loose.
Okay. And the Jewish people are indeed going to use that moment. They're going to go through the sea. The sea splits.
Woohoo.
The sea splits. The sea splits. I don't know. In some weird way, we know that story, and we've heard the story since we were children. That's the story.
Sure, yeah.
That's like the story.
How could it not be?
That's the image. It's interesting. I never seen it ever in a graphic of like any organization using the C split as a thing. The reason I think about this, I think about graphic images sometimes.
Sure.
And for just like for an example, one of my favorite graphic images in my mind is when Samson lifts up the gates of the city above his head and he walks it from Gaza to the hills of Hebron. Well, I always thought that would make a great graphic image. Recently, they unearthed a Byzantine era synagogue in the north, and in one of the images that they had in the synagogue the mosaic, it was it.
Cool.
But the splitting of the Red Sea, it's splitting of the sea. We live with this image, but I don't know. You know, it's not with us like the menorah is with us or something like that. It's almost like I don't know. It's above us a little bit. I would say it's definitely above us because it's a level of the prophetic that in many ways surpasses Sinai, because we come away from Sinai with there's a takeaway. There's the thing.
There's luchot. There's the tablets, and there's content.
Right, and this is what you got to do.
Right, but the sages say that the lowliest person in Am Yisrael saw visions in the splitting of the Red Sea that the highest prophets never merited, and part of that is because. But
it doesn't come down into a thing.
Exactly, and that's exactly why. I mean, it wasn't something you could take away. It was a transformative experience. That's what I mean when I said all the waters in the world split, meaning you would not be the same being afterwards. Right.
Now, check out this. You have a pregnant woman, and in her final stages of pregnancy, in the late in the term, and there's something very. I think it's pretty universal to say there's something very beautiful about pregnant women. There's something very
potential life and
right, and it's an awesome thing. It goes into the birth process, which is, you could say it prosaically that it's very beautiful, but it's also
messy and scary,
and always
violent.
Right on the verge of death for every time.
Yeah,
and then afterwards, life is born. The child comes out, and it's like success. And yet the work only begins there.
I was going to say, now you really got to get to work.
Right, now the kid is crying, pooping, sleeping, crying, and all that, and it's the whole
the real
gentle,
work begins.
Right, the real work begins.
Although don't tell that to your pregnant wife.
Right. No, but we all know that. We all know about that.
It begins and it kind of never really ends. I mean, Ad Mei V'Srim, but the difference is that
I'm saying you're not going to be dealing with a very. It's not like Esav, like you talk about him coming out complete. It's like a child does not come out complete.
No, exactly. My point is even when children grow up, you will always have that sense of care, concern, and desire to like help and guide, etc. Whether you're going to be able to do it or not is his own question. It doesn't end.
Well, the metaphor that I'm trying to draw here is the Jewish people on one side of the sea are pregnant with potential, and there's this amazing moment, and then there's the birth, which is bloody in part, but it's also amazing and transformative and prophetic.
Yeah, and incomprehensible.
Incomprehensible, right? You can't. There's no actual takeaway, but it's an awesome moment. But on the other side, they're a little bit of crybabies.
Oh yeah.
First thing, let's mention that there's also the women's
chorus.
There's the song of the song. There's the song of the sea, and then the women come out with their what do they call this?
Ladies with the drums.
Yeah, but what
tambourines.
Are they? Tambourines. You know, they got the tambourines. Hey, where'd you get the tambourine? Well, I took it from Egypt because I knew there was going to be an awesome moment.
We're going to the redemption. You're not going to bring your tambourine,
right? They got their tambourines with them, and they're going to sing the song. And so there's like the women's song of the sea. There's the whole nation, but then there's the women's song of the sea,
led by Miriam,
Miriam, the prophetess. But like soon afterwards, it becomes.
Well, let's be clear. Immediately afterwards.
Well, past the song of the sea, right? Past the song of the sea.
Yeah, but it's like literally the next line. It's literally the next line.
Yeah, right. The next line is, and they didn't find water.
Right.
As in, they're hungry.
Yeah.
They're thirsty. Yep. Okay. And they couldn't drink the water that are bitter. And then God sends down, Moses cries out, and he sends down a tree, a stick. And that stick touches the water, and it sweetens the water.
Well, he just shows Moshe the stick. It's not, the stick was there.
Right. Okay. Vayoreo Hashem etz. He like showed him where the stick was. Vayishlech. He throws it into El Hamayim. Vim Tiku Hamayim. The waters became sweet. And then this is actually a place where, according to the sages, a lot of the Torah was actually taught, right? Because it says there, Sham Sam Lachoku Mishpat V'Sham Nisau. He taught him law and judgment and ordinances, and there he either raised them up or tried them.
And notice this is a test run for Sinai. You have the sort of miraculous incomprehensible of the crossing of the Red Sea,
right,
which leaves the people in a very molten state, and then boom, here's the law. You're going to take it or not. In the same way, Sinai, the trumpets, the flames. You can hear you see the trumpets, and you hear the lights, and etc. And then here you go.
Right.
You take it or not.
And from here on, we're going to deal with kind of complaint after complaint. It's hard for me to count how many different complaints there are. And I think I talked about this a few years ago. I read a book by Rabbi Shalom Arush, and he basically proves that one of the things that God gets the most angry about is complaints.
Yes, we've spoken about it. For sure.
Complaining has a deleterious effect. It like makes it angers God, just like parents get angry after you give them a full day on a trip, and you fed them, and you took them on a trip, and you spent money on them, and they did this and that, and then at the very end, you're at the restaurant or the thing, and you don't want to get them a second dessert, and they're like, this day, I've had a hard day. Yeah. My son gave me that the other day. He gave me it's been a hard day. I'm like, you have not had a hard day. Okay, it's not been a hard day for you. Your day has been filled with treats and love and all that kind of stuff. Your brother annoyed you a little bit. Don't make it into like a big hard day. All right.
I mean, beyond the obvious parallel to human experience, I think one of the reasons that the divine wrath, as it were, is so stirred by complaining is it's the opposite of the purpose of the creation of humanity. We're created l'hakir et hatov.
Right.
Not just for gratitude, which is often how that's translated, but to see the goodness which exists within creation and to actualize it. Right? The good which is not yet is the human task by doing mitzvot, by having consciousness, all kinds of ways. So therefore, if we complain, what we're doing is basically seeing the good as bad, and we're pushing creation backwards, as it were. This is a big fail. It's a big fail. So that's why, coming out from the Red Sea and being thirsty, no problem. But seeing as God has just done 10 plagues and split the Red Sea, maybe instead of complaining, You should go to Moshe and say, Moshe, like, we need water.
Right.
With a confidence that God will come through.
Right.
The complaining means that there's a narrowness of vision that still exists.
I guess that right now also in the situation in Israel, we also have to be somewhat like, look, God brought us out of the Holocaust and into this land. He's built up Jerusalem, and it's going to move ahead, correctly. We got to have faith in that.
I mean, it's something I am telling people all the time is that we should be grateful for the privilege to have the problems we have.
Mm-hmm.
Because our problems are very real. I don't mean to deny that,
right.
However a person identifies them. But they're problems which are a result of the tremendous gifts that we've received in the last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to have the problems of a sovereign state, problems vis-a-vis the Arabs, problems vis-a-vis our own society, et cetera, those are fundamentally problems to be grateful about, as opposed to the powerlessness that culminated in the Holocaust.
Right. Yet the Jews feel a little powerless in the desert in the sense that they are in a sustenance crisis.
Because I don't do well without food.
Right, and it's the desert. It's the desert. It's the desert. And if you've been to the Sinai Desert,
Oh, it's the real thing.
It's a real desert. Not as bad as the Arizona desert, though.
I don't know. I've been in both of them.
I don't know. I flew over the Arizona desert. It looked like man, that is a.
Have you been in the center of the Sinai? You have.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense.
It's intense out there. It is intense out there. It is a real desert, and there's a sustenance problem. And again, this is if we liken it to a birth, and afterwards like a baby that needs sustenance, they're like crying out like little children here. They're like wah wah wah, like give me food. God says, I'll give you baby food. I'll give you the manna. And some people some people say that the whole experience within the Sinai is really pregnancy. It is these
infancy.
No, even before that, it's gestation. Until they come into the land of Israel.
I mean, I would actually put it differently. Gestation, in my eyes, happens within Egypt.
Okay.
Egypt is the womb.
Right.
The birth canal you are already identified in the Red Sea. And then there's a process of early childhood in Sinai. By the way, it answers your question in many ways. Like, we're going to see at the end of this parsha one of the most insane, most childish questions that Am Yisrael asks at all. Is
God with us?
God with us or not? Like, what?
Right.
10 plagues, split the Red Sea. You're following a pillar of fire right now. Like, how would you ask that question?
Right.
Is it a stupid question? No, it's a childish question.
Right.
Literally. Because what infants lack is object permanence. We've had this discussion for sure. Right? That's why playing peekaboo with a little child is fun. If you do it with your older students, they just think you're strange. Right? Because you actually disappear when they don't see your face.
Right.
And Am Yisrael is in that infantile state right now, that unless God is directly doing for us,
right,
then God isn't there.
And that's why maybe we don't actually see God's anger, wrath in this week's parsha on the Jews, even though they complain. We're going to see that later. But in this stage, we should have grown
up a little bit.
Right. In this stage, not yet. Every time they whine, they kind of get what they want. But one of the magical things that happens in this week's parsha is the manna bread.
Man.
Yeah. And getting man is such a miraculous thing that even in the parsha it says, that Moses tells to Aaron, take a jar and fill it with this manna bread. So it should be like a sign for all generations. Me, personally, like one of the things that I've always wanted to see inside the Aron HaKodesh is this jar of manna. I think I would have been the kind of guy like, wow, look at that manna bread. That is really cool.
You would have been the guy that tried to sneak up and just get a little taste.
I just want to be like, what is that? That's so cool. It's interesting you say that the Baal HaTurim says that the man, it says that it would melt. The word man is spelled mem and then nun sofit, but the nun sofit can be broken up gematriatically, right? In its numerical form, can be broken up to yud and mem, which is also 50. So you would have maim. Man can be also equal to maim, which is water, and that it would actually become water, become rivulets. The animals of the Gentiles would eat it. The Gentiles would eat the animals and would taste manna.
Just a little bit of that.
And they'd be like, that's good. The Jewish people are blessed.
Wow.
That is awesome. I would like to taste some of that manna. I have to talk with Malkah, okay, for this Shabbos, because I think she needs to make some kind of manna-like thing.
Some honey fried
something.
Cakes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We got to make some. Yeah, we got to make some honey kite for honey.
Okay. It's a fichat b'devash.
Right. It's like It's like a
honey fried pancake.
honey fried pancake.
Thin,
yeah.
though. Wafer.
Yeah.
Wafer thin.
Wafer, maybe. Yeah, whatever. It depends. Probably the Yemenites made it thick and fluffy, and
the Ashkenazim made it really dry and
really-
crunchy.
Exactly. See,
Tasteless.
that's for sure. Like I'm going to the other tribe. Okay.
Yes.
I wish I was in the other one of the 12 splitting of the Red Seas. You know, because it's split into
12 channels.
12 channels. I'm going to the other channel. So and the manna also is a teaching tool for these young babies for the Sabbath.
It's fantastic to me that it's not just a teaching tool. This is our first introduction to Shabbat.
Right.
You know,
And it's through food.
Yes.
You see? It's like little mice. It's like little
training.
Do this, right?
Well, but there's something deeper than that. I hear the sort of behavioralist approach to Shabbat thing, which I mean, as a father, I can tell you, and also as a son, like you're like, what do I remember from Shabbat with my family growing up? There were lots of really great discussions, etc. But the food,
Yeah,
like
the food.
something like that warm, happy feeling.
Oh yeah.
That's why I like panic if I ever feel like I haven't made enough food for Shabbat. My wife's like, I'm telling you right now, objectively speaking, they didn't eat even a third of what you made last week, and you've made more than that. And I say, like, but there's not enough. There won't be enough. It's like this very deep need to make sure that there's abundance.
You're so right, though. You are so right about Shabbat. I'll give you an example of what we have in our house. We have a drink that we drink on Shabbat only.
Ooh.
Which is, I take soda water, but
Sure.
what's it called? Bubbly water.
Soda water,
And add it to grape juice.
yeah.
That's it.
Spritzer.
That's it. Now, for some reason, it has an incredible taste on Shabbos. And on weekdays, we never do it because it's just we think. But if I ever did, it just doesn't have that
Wouldn't be the
taste.
same.
It doesn't have that taste. And then there's
I find bourbon is the same.
last Shabbos, Malkah bought some of that honey, Jack Daniels, that honey drink.
No.
It was 100 shekel bottle was polished off over Shabbat and shul. I brought it to shul for Kiddush. Boom! It was gone in a second. But like, and also Leah likes it when my daughter likes it when her mother makes what they call in America baba ganoush. We call it just eggplant with mayonnaise salad.
Right.
Forget about it. This is Shabbos, and I really think that's one of the things of manna. It really kind of like. It teaches, and like now, look, and they come to Moses. They're like, look, a double portion came out. He's like, that's what I'm telling you. It's Friday, and Friday you're gonna get a double portion. Tomorrow there's not gonna be any. And then like some people went out to look for it.
It's always we got to be that guy,
right? And then Moses is like, I'm angry, but it's like a parental
God says
angry, huh?
God
no,
says
it's I think about the folks that kept to the next morning.
And it can rotted.
And it rotted.
Yeah.
So Moses is like, I'm angry. But like to me, it's like, why are you so angry? It's like he's a parent. He's like you're doing bad. I'm angry with you. See, I'm teaching you that don't leave it over to the next day. All right. So there is a teaching moment through the manna.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, on any number of fronts.
Okay. All right. So there's the manna, and then finally there's manna, but there's also water. There's also water issues. An interesting thing that happens is that there is also the first hitting of the rock, right? The hitting of the rock, which the tsuk. What's a tsuk? It's not a rock. It's a sheer face of a mountain, whatever it's called. The Yellowstone thing. You know?
A face.
Yeah, not Yellowstone.
Monolith.
Yeah,
Think of
yeah.
Yosemite.
Yosemite. That
like
big,
half dome.
right? That half dome, exactly. So thanks. So he says, take with you, the elders, and take with you the stick which you hit the Nile with.
The thing's got a big reputation at this point.
Right, but it's a water thing.
Yeah.
You turn that water into undrinkable. Now bring drinkable water out.
Of this rock.
You know what I mean? It's like remember this thing. That's what you were saying before. Like, remember, I'm with you. Remember this thing, and it made the other place, and you also made a lot of money over it because the Egyptians came and they had to buy money from you. My favorite. But here it's like I'm gonna give you drinkable water now. It's the same. I'm the same God. The one who I'm not just a vengeful God against the bad guys. I'm also a loving God to you.
Yeah, and it also plays into this very infantile stage that Am Yisrael's at. Show them the stick. Like, let them feel secure.
Right.
Like, they know you have the stick.
Right.
They'll be taken care of.
Right. Okay, but in this infantile zone, there's one force that you really don't want to reckon with in this kind of very vulnerable moment, and that is Amalek.
Dun, 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 dun.
You don't want to face Amalek. I wish I had the Darth Vader music.
I almost went dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun,
dun,
dun, dun,
dun,
dun, dun, dun, dun.
That's the one.
Dun, 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 dun,
It's like
dun, dun.
ay, give up. Amalek, this anti-Jewish nation who's really angry at the revelation of God, who really wants to prove to the world that there is no God, who wants to make the world go into the other belief system, which is that just like nihilism,
Darkness, death.
right? We believe in nothing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That kind of thing. So it's a tough moment for the Jews, because maybe if we see it the way we just kind of explained, which is there's a childlike, baby-like state where they're not quite yet really formed as a proud people. They're still in slave mentality, and here come these real bad guys that come out, and then and there's no rationale, there's no explanation, there's no logic, there's no why, which is also tricky. Sometimes you look for a why in your enemy. I know Jews love to say that. They're like, was Obama really anti-Israel, do you think? And I'm just like, it really doesn't matter, does it? It really doesn't matter.
Like, what did he actually do?
But people I think people like that. I think Jews like that a lot of times, to understand the psychology.
No question.
Right.
Listen, that's why it's sadly much easier to deal with the death of loved ones in war than in a traffic accident.
Right. That's right.
Easier, but meaning there's a narrative to which in which it fits. You can give it a meaningful, package, as opposed to no, actually, it didn't look both ways before he crossed the street.
Right. That's or a disease that comes and eats you away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's much easier to deal with life when there's a sense of meaning, and I think that's part of the message that Amalek is davka not attacking from any meaning.
Mm-hmm.
They're
That's
attacking
the thing.
because they don't want there to be mean in the world. Meaning they want there to be mean.
So it's an attack on meaning. It's a fight on meaning.
Yes,
it's a battle against meaning,
which, as the Parsha promises, is ongoing to this very day.
Right. Let's get to that in a second. And so Moses goes up. This is a very interesting scene, very, very dramatic, also very picturesque.
Yeah, it's another graphic image.
Quite picturesque. That Joshua goes out to fight, but Moses and his two assistants, Aaron and Hur, go to the top of the mountain. And when Moses would raise his hands, Israel would be advantageous, would be victorious, would overcome. And when his hands would fall down, Amalek would be in a state of advantage, would be defeating the Jews, which is in itself a weird thing, but then you kind of understand this is a faith battle.
Mm-hmm.
This is a battle of faith, of belief in God. His hands are up with the strength of God. But interestingly enough, and maybe you can help me understand this, because I am a little bit at a loss to understand it exactly. His hands are heavy.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, V'idei Moshe kvedim. He said about myself, "Ani kvad peh kvad lashon."
Yeah.
Right? I'm heavy of mouth, heavy of tongue. Now it's your hands that are heavy, right? And they took a stone and they put under him, and he sat on it. And then Aaron and Hur held his hands up. An interesting extra words, mizechad u mizechad, from this side and from this side. V'hi yadav emunav ad bo hashamish. His hands were faithful, were true, were unswerving.
Yeah.
Until the sun rose, and Joshua was able to weaken Amalek, not destroy Amalek. Very importantly, weaken Amalek by the fight of the sword.
Right, he drove them off.
Yeah. What do you think about this hands heavy business?
This image, the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah asks the obvious question, which we were hinting at, which is like, what is this, magic? Like, Moshe's hands go up and Am Yisrael is on top. Moshe's hands go down and Amalek is on top. Like, it's not his hands that are fighting the battle. And so the answer, which is offered there, is no. When Am Yisrael looked and they saw his hands, their eyes were drawn immediately sort of upwards toward God. Meaning, is so long as we understood that what happened on the battlefield was an expression of a larger struggle between God and Amalek, between meaning and non-meaning, it gave us the strength to overcome. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing, is that there are people who represent that emunah in the world, in Am Yisrael, I'd say in the nations of the world as well. Mm-hmm. And it's important to note that this is the first appearance of the noun emunah of the actual word, meaning the shorish, the root of Aleph Mem Nun, has appeared before this. But the word emunah doesn't appear in the Torah until this moment. And I think you did very nicely in translating it. Emunah is, usually translated as faith or faithful. Here it really means steadfast, right? Which is a particular expression of faith. It's like what Moshe is showing them is, I am not giving up. I'm not giving up because so
what is the part of the story that tells you that his hands were heavy?
Because it's not a given. Even Moshe is going to struggle and need help to uphold what he knows to be true. Right? If we're going to go with the metaphor fully, the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Meaning that there is an intergenerational battle of spirit which is going on. Don't make the mistake of thinking that just because your body is unable that your spirit is false, but also don't think that because your spirit is true that your body will necessarily be able to give it expression. Right? This image of gathering those who support him around him so that he can maintain the relationship between spirit and body in order that Am Yisrael can keep their eyes focused on heaven and win the physical battle. Notice it's a war going on out there. I think has a lot to teach us today, which is, first of all, you have to have that emunah. You have to have that steadfast commitment to what's right despite the way the world fights against you, even your own heaviness. And second of all, it's not enough. That you actually have to gather the right people around you to support you in that. And you
get by with a little help with your friends, from your friends.
Yeah, and there's a deep humility that comes in Moshe's willingness.
I like that. The humility, yeah. That's the aspect. There's an avada, and there's a humility even the fact that this is written into the Torah.
Right.
Like,
no, if this were mythology, Moshe would have stood there with his arms outstretched through the whole battle.
Right.
And Zehu, that would have been it.
Right.
But the reality is, everything here tells you we did the best we could here, and this battle ain't over. Because, of course,
and
like you point out.
And the Torah continues and actually tells us in the narrator form, it tells us, first it says that God said to Moses, write this in the book of memories and put it in the ears of Joshua, interesting enough in Joshua, as in the person who's going to take you to the land of Israel, for I will destroy the memory of Amalek from underneath the heavens. And then Moses made an altar. That word always escapes me. And he calls the altar, Hashem is my
banner,
my sign,
standard.
Right? My standard, good standard. It's like a Roman thing.
He did it before there was a Rome.
Right, I guess so. Okay, the word nisi has dual meaning. Very interesting. Everybody should know this. The word nes means banner or standard, but it also means miracle, as in something that you see that is shown to the world.
Yeah, something which rises above the plane of battle that allows you to rally around and know what you're fighting for.
That's, by the way, the power of flags. That's the power of flags. We have some strong flags in Hebron, and I think they do.
But think about it. Think about why do you fly those big flags above Hebron?
That's actually the power of that American anthem.
Oh yes,
you saw the banner. Right, you saw
the flag still stands.
Right,
you know what you're fighting for. Here you are in the depths, in the trenches, so to speak, and it's so easy to lose faith, especially in this case where the battle they win, but you don't think that they notice that Amalek retreats and regroups.
Right.
Who's not thinking in their mind right now? Ooh, they'll come back.
Right, and that's what it means. Like, tell it in the name of in Joshua's ear, as in
it ain't over.
Yeah, you're gonna face it again.
Right, but. Don't lose keep your eyes on the prize, so to speak, on the flag which stands above the field of battle.
And then it says Vayomer, and it's ostensibly it's Moses, but it could be also God says Ki yad al kes ya milchama laHashem be'amalek midor do, because the hand. Now this is a very, very tricky verse, very many different explanations, but it means that the hand is on the seat of God. Either this means that Amalek is shaking the seat of God, is grabbing the seat of God, or it means that hands that God's hand is up in an from the chair of God is risen in an oath. He puts it up in an oath, saying that there's a milchama Hashem, there's a battle of gods in Amalek from generation to generation. Whatever it is, how you understand this verse, we don't have to get into all the various explanations. The meaning is plain, which is there's a battle with Amalek and God, not in the Jewish people, and God intergenerationally. It happens in every generation. And that actually gives me a lot of heart a lot of times. I like this verse. It actually gives me a lot of heart because I'm like, oh, okay, because this invisible enemy, I know who it is now. Like, I know there's a battle in this generation. I know there's a battle with Amalek and God right now.
Well, and it's also, there's a warning in that, which is, and don't make the mistake of thinking that this is about you or I.
Right.
I mean, if we want to be victorious in this battle, that we need to be fighting on the behalf of God, of a life filled with meaning, of choosing life as opposed to choosing death, right? And in all the things that we're actually struggling about. I mean, it's a big challenge to keep that squarely in the center of field, right? It's one that our people have had sometimes great success and sometimes less.
And it's also important to remember that Amalek is coming exactly in opposition to the splitting of the Red Sea. The miraculous hand of God, which is revelation with a big R, okay, its counter is this Amalek, which is we believe in nothing, it's faithless, it's damaging, it's the opposite of excitement, it's the opposite of heat, it's the opposite of passion, it's the opposite of trust, of faith. And so they're out there when you have a moment of great,
well, their expression of that dualist world, really, and I don't know how far we want to go with it, that Adam and Chava really brought into being when they ate the tree from the knowledge of good and evil. Because what was the curse that was given to Adam? Kotz v'dar, tzmach lecha, right? That it will be thorns and thistles that the earth brings out to you. That dar is very deeply related to this milchama midol, right? That sense of dissipation, and that the world, as much energy you put into it, you're not actually going to get out of it what you want.
That's right.
Because that battle's not over until the end. There's a very deep connection between this and those early stories.
That's awesome. That's an awesome thought. But we're out of time. I want to thank you very much, Rabbi Mike Feuer. I also want to remind everybody that today's show is dedicated in the name of Avram ben Meir HaKohen, his 11th Yortzeit, who he was a patriarch of the family, generous, took care of poor and educating the young, served in the Navy, was a businessman and a lawyer, took care of his family, and that's a great, that's faith, and that's passing it on from generation to generation.
We can recall him at this moment.
Rabbi Mike Feuer, I want to thank you so much and wish you a Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
I hope you're going to have a split pea soup. Or something.
There's an idea.
Yeah, because I know you're thinking about your Shabbos.
Split sea soup.
Split sea soup.
I don't know if I can eat it, but I might have to make it anyway.
Split sea soup. I think the whole Shabbos, like, you got to have an Oreo cookie and then split it. You got what else? What else do we split?
Wishbone.
Wishbone. What else can we split over there?
Banana split.
Banana split. Oh my God.
Oh no.
Oh my
it's
God.
all over now.
Banana split Shabbos. Hashtag banana split Shabbos. That's right. Hashtag banana split Shabbos. That's all you have to send me, and you'll make our day. God bless you, folks. Stay tuned. More great stuff. Malkah Fleisher is next. Maybe even somebody else. And blessings from Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh, city of faith, eternal faith, a city that never, her hands never go down. Even if Dad, for a little bit, it came back up in our time. The city of faith, the city of eternity. Rabbi Mike, Shabbat Shalom and thanks.
Shabbat Shalom. Awake, tribe of Judah, calls Zev Jabotinsky. Nature beckons with the spring. Passover beckons, the day of Exodus, liberation from our chains. Well, I'm definitely looking for a little bit of liberation, and frankly, even a healthy dose of redemption, because I'm Rav Mike Feuer, and this is The Jewish Story.
Join Rav Mike Feuer for the best Jewish history podcast, The Jewish Story, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Yishai Fleisher Show. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Judea, spring-like weather, and a big rainstorm is coming. But today, blue skies in the biblical Judea, here in the fields where Ruth came in from Moab to join the Jewish people. And I'm joined by Malkah Fleisher. Malkah, shalom and welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Great to have you back on the show, Malkah.
Yes, good to be back.
So what's going on?
So here we are. That's it? That's what you got? Usually you do some kind of like, oh, blah, 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 something nice and feeling good. You're not feeling so good?
I'm feeling okay. And as I said, I'm looking out the window and I'm loving the blue skies. I like winter. I like rain. I like cold. I'm good with that. But it's been, thank God, very gray for a lot of weeks here in Eretz Yisrael. And so I'm looking out there and I'm kind of hungering.
Hungering is when you want a sandwich.
Hunkering?
Or stuff.
Like when you yearn for something?
Yeah.
To hunker?
Hunker.
Isn't that to hunker
hankering.
down? Oh, hankering. Yeah, I have a hankering for some outside time, some jogging or something like that.
Nice.
So that's it.
You should do that today.
Bezrat Hashem.
Well, Yishai, the truth is, I know that you're just talking about the weather because you don't want to talk about the thing that all of us don't so much want to talk about, which is the fact that last week we were in a great mood, right? All the Judeans and all the Samaritans and all the Jerusalemites were in a good mood because we were just on the cusp of doing something huge and momentous, which was to apply, finally, after so long, to apply our sovereignty officially to Judea and Samaria. And it looks like the momentum has screeched to a halt. And who knows? Basically, the deal of the century was announced last week, and everyone watched it on TV. Everyone stopped what they were doing, and it was like, wow, here we go. And now it's back to regularly scheduled programming, except now that there is some kind of a land dividing plan down on the table, authored by the Trump administration, and we're all kind of wondering how to feel about it.
Okay, so I'll tell you my perspective on it, and I'll keep it very, very tight.
All right.
Last week I was very bullish about the deal, not because I liked the parts that talked about a Palestinian state, and I made it clear in our statement from Hebron. The reason I liked it was because as you just mentioned, it was about assertion of Israeli sovereignty, Israeli law over parts of Judea and Samaria, over the communities of Judea and Samaria. There was recognition by the Arab countries of this right, and there was also very clearly stated, explicitly stated, what the quote-unquote Palestinians have to do in order to get in the game, and that is to really change from head to toe, to really become not a terrorist organization, to recognize that Jerusalem is Israel's capital, that Israel is the Jewish state, etc. So there was a lot of good stuff there.
Right.
But as you mentioned, there was not an application of sovereignty. Right now they're talking about pushing it off till after the elections. But who knows who's going to win these elections? And so it could be a Benny Gantz.
And also, who knows if they're being honest, right?
Right. Well, let me just run through my points.
Go ahead.
Who knows if it's going to be a Benny Gantz, and a Benny Gantz can read this very same deal backwards. He can read it like the really important part is the creation of a Palestinian state,
right? Which is not what
we're after. Right, not what we signed up for at all. And the other stuff, not so important. Meaning to say he can do the same.
Right, it's an interpretation.
Right, it's an interpretation. He can read it backwards. So that's number one. Number two, something that's really bothering me a lot, and it's not easy to just verbalize it in words. It's because it's an atmospheric. It's a feeling, and that is that Israel was climbing towards being really a robust, independent country, not on par with the United States, but collegiate. And we weren't under their tutelage. We were not a puppet state. We were not like a kind of like a country that you tell its borders and things like that. And we were really kind of moving up. It was through the Obama years that Netanyahu, showed kind of Israeli muscle, and then the Trump team, so pro-Israel, and then the Pompeo announcement / Pompeo doctrine was really a clarification that America was no longer seeing Jewish presence in Judea as illegal, and do what you want to do now, folks. You guys are grown-ups.
You guys make your decisions.
Right, you're grown-ups. Go do it. Suddenly, we put ourselves right back, or we got put under by both maybe Kushner, maybe Netanyahu, under this rubric where Israel is this kind of puppet state where it's like it's being dictated to. What are the borders, when you can build, and that's the deal. And we and the Palestinians are on the same kind of playing field. It's like us and them, and they both want something, and they both got to get a little less than they want. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not where we were headed. And what bothers me even more than the announcement of that is the way that I've seen some Jews go right into shtetl mode
Yeah,
and
how
be
so?
like, oh no, I heard that that Jared Kushner's angry, and this kind of discussion of like we're upsetting him and stuff like that. It's like, wait a minute, hold your horses, guys. 3,800 years of Jewish history isn't going to stop on the the whims of one, God bless him, prominent and important but Livingston Jew.
Right.
And,
which, by the way, we don't know. Like, meaning to say, he gave a couple of interviews.
Yeah.
And speaking of interpretation, like, you could really interpret it a couple of ways. These interviews. Yeah. He basically, it all hinges on this thing where he's like, well, we hope the Israelis will wait to apply their sovereignty. But it's not like he's holding what's he holding over our heads? Meaning to say, like, he hopes, he doesn't hope. That's very, very nice. Right. But in the meantime, we have the capability, and we got the clearance politically from the United States to go forward. So, like, we don't have to interpret it that way. It could have very easily been that we would have applied the sovereignty, and then Kushner would have gone, well, it would have been nice if Israel had waited, but now there are facts on the ground. Like, you don't know what the basis was for all this stuff. Right. And it's unfortunate to me that Israel, kind of along the lines of what you're saying, going into shtetl mode, it's unfortunate that Israel went to interpret the statements that way, meaning to say they went to interpret it as like, whoa, we better like slow all the way down. And now, of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu is saying...
But that's what I want, exactly those words right now, what you said. It's not an American signal to us. There's a deeper truth here, which is it's an Israeli signal back to America, back to Israel.
Right, which is you can tell us what to do.
Which is, this is a Netanyahu plan. And this stalling is in large part also a Netanyahu stalling. And so...
But that doesn't make me want to vote for him.
Exactly. Wait, let me finish. And let me finish my third and last point, because I laid out what was good. I laid out what I think is bad, and here's just my final takeaway, because I want everybody to at least have a sense of what my takeaway is if they want.
Yeah. And
that is, okay, there's good things, there's bad things. Whatever it is, we're going to have to roll with it at this time. And what we have to do is go back to first principles, which is we're going to take the best things of this plan. We're going to demand sovereignty of our government and of recognition of such from the United States, etc. And we're going to say to the Arabs, look, you're a terrorist organization. When you kind of snap out of that, then maybe we can move along, okay? And the way I understood it with when I had Alex on the show was it doesn't have to be a Palestinian state. It could be it could be these autonomous cities or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a Palestinian state. It could be like, here's a region where they have their own local voting, local rule for
local governance.
But whatever it is, my point is I'm going to push ahead, given the best aspects of this plan, which are very forthright and very, very forward thinking, and there are good aspects. We're just gonna slam our hand down and say this is what we want and move forward with it. And that's it. I'm not going to complain a lot. I'm going to let the Arabs do the complaining. By the way, the Arabs are now going to the UN to do what I call diplo-terror.
Right. Well, this is our fault. This is really our fault, because we basically opened the door to this. By not being assertive and by not saying, yes, this is ours, we left a room for doubt. And now, after Trump issued his plan, everyone was quiet. Did anybody notice that?
Yeah, there was quiet.
The European Union didn't have much to say. In fact, just yesterday, I think, or on Sunday, the big EU Foreign Council meeting was held. Some big EU branch of political branch of the EU met, and they were they tried to pass a unanimous resolution condemning the Trump plan. But there were several countries, there were 6 countries that would not sign on. And so they were not able to pass a unanimous.
Yeah. So that's good.
So, yes, and it's different, right? It's it's not something that we've experienced in the past. And it really scares me how Netanyahu is handling this, because the longer it happens every time. It's the same thing with whenever Israel has a war in Gaza. When Israel has a war in Gaza and we're hitting back against terrorism, the whole world is quiet. It's when we stop hitting the terrorism that everyone's like, wait a second. They stopped, which means they're not so convinced of what they're doing, which means why should we be so all this time we've had doubts about what they're doing. And if they have doubts about what they're doing, then our doubts are obviously valid. Clearly there's something here that we need to be concerned about. And that's what I'm concerned about now. That's good that Abbas is going to go to the United Nations. And this plan has just riled everybody up enough that I think that there are going to be powers who are, for example, going to want to recognize officially a state of Palestine.
Right.
And I think that
You're saying, if you're not robust, if you're not clear, you create a vacuum and other people come in.
But I think that Netanyahu also had a strategy, which was, okay, it's not so bad that I'm not going to apply sovereignty now. I'll just say, vote for me, and I will apply the sovereignty after I get elected, right? And there is some rationale to that. I mean, this is, quote unquote, an interim government, right? We're sort of between elections, and he doesn't really have the mandate anymore. In terms of the vote, he wasn't able to create a coalition thanks to Avigdor Lieberman and all his personal politicking. And now he says, go vote for me and give me a 61 plus seat government. And then when I'll really have the mandate of the people, then we'll go right forward with this. But people like me who have appreciated Netanyahu over the course of his tenure, but also recognized that he could have also applied sovereignty and done other positive things for Judea and Samaria at other times, are a little also concerned, right? Because we're like, maybe he's not going to do it. Maybe, why not give us a show at least? Apply sovereignty to something, right? See, I'm gonna look, I do apply sovereignty to something, but I can't do big moves right now because this is an interim government. So, elect me and I'll do the rest, right? But he's not giving confidence, I think, still to the people. And the polls, incidentally, not that I'm such a big believer in the polls.
Right.
Because the Israeli polls are notoriously
skewed
and erroneous, etc. But the polls are not showing that there was some big surge in support for Netanyahu.
No.
And they polled right after the announcement, the day after the announcement of the deal of the century. And then his numbers went up a little bit, right? Because people are like, okay, here we go. But when they see that Netanyahu is basically, it's going to play right into the hands of the people who say that Netanyahu is utilizing this moment for his own political gain, which does not build confidence in anybody, including the people who would possibly vote for him. It turns out that Israelis are not stupid, right? And we want some results, and we're not going to just go on a promise anymore. So, like you and I, for example, we have to think about who to vote for, basically. It's not like a cut and dry that we're like, oh my gosh, yeah, we totally got to vote for Likud, because if we don't vote for Likud, then this plan might not happen.
Let's ask our beloved listeners from around the world to tell us who would they vote for. Who would they vote for?
Maybe there is what to believe in also, meaning to say Netanyahu.
Hold on, Malkah.
Between Netanyahu and Gantz, between the right and the left, there's no question that a right-wing government is the better chance.
Let's turn it back to our listeners and hashtag I would vote for.
Okay.
And then write your thinking. I would vote for. I want to hear your thoughts about that. Hashtag I would vote for.
Right.
And who would you vote for right now? That would be really fun. I also want to remind everybody, Malkah, that there is an election in the United States, or at least, no, it's not in the United States. It's for American citizens.
Yeah.
And it's at azm.org. And that is the election for the World Zionist Congress. And you can elect your representatives, and there are excellent...
Wait, so let's learn, just a second, before you talk about the candidates.
Yeah.
Who is eligible to vote?
If you're 18, if you're plus 18, over 18, if you have, if you're an American citizen and not a voting Israeli citizen, I think that if you're an Israeli citizen that can
who
vote,
is a resident of the United States.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, meaning so you're not a resident of Israel.
You're not.
Can't vote
you are
here.
a resident. You are an Israeli, but you are a resident of the United States with American citizenship.
With a credit card that has an American address.
A credit card.
You're willing to pay $7.50 if you're not a student, and if you're a student, I think it's $5. That's it. That's the qualification. Oh,
okay.
and you're willing to click.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish.
Nice.
Meaning to say you self-identify as Jewish. There you go.
So and asking you now, what's the big deal? Like, why is this an important election?
Billions of shekel, like $1 billion, gets allocated
to what
over 5 years.
Where?
To Zionist causes. And you could either basically help this money go towards like progressive liberalism, LGBTQ, a two-state solution, Palestinians have rights, that whole worldview.
The left side,
or you could do it towards holding on to the land. Israel's the nation state of the Jewish people. Torah is a value system that's important to all of us. That kind
and
of
there's
thing.
a whole wide range of parties also.
Yeah, there's a wide range.
How many, you're allowed to vote for one party?
Yes. You
So
only
you
have
vote for one
choice.
party. You
Yes.
get one. Yeah.
Right, and you have in there you have Cherut, which is the Jabotinsky party. You have the ZOA coalition, which is the Likud party. You have Visions, which is related to the Yamina and Naftali Bennett, Ayelet Shaked, Smotrich party, which is like the young people's party. You have the OU/Mizrahi party, which is like religious
More
Zionism.
religious, yeah.
You have the Sephardi party, okay?
Sephardi party is
You like a Shas party,
Yeah.
You know, and I think those are all wonderful votes. And you know what? I feel as your show host
with
the most that like just vote whatever's good for you, but just get out there and vote.
Your voice matters, and if you're listening to this show,
there's 15 slates. Just read them. They're fun. Everybody has one little page. I read them.
Right. There's lots of good options. You don't have to overly stress. Also, there's many good choices.
But you do have to stress about one thing, which is vote.
Do it.
Vote. Just vote. And so that's azm.org.
azm.org.
I've been tweeting it. You know, I've been trying to retweet every party, like most of the parties that I can identify with their platforms and their tweets. And so just
share it around to your friends. Also, tell your friends that there's a vote. Until when is it, Yishai?
It's another few weeks. It's like a 7-week vote.
Wow.
But I wish I didn't say that because I want people to go just do it and get
now.
it down.
Do it now. So share with your friends.
Right.
Tell your grandma. Tell your friend down the street. Tell your the mom that you carpool with that at azm.org you can do this little vote, $7.50, and I'm sure that
some people don't like. Some people chafe at the $7.50, not because they have a problem paying $7.50, which is what you pay, for a cup of coffee at and something at Starbucks, right? But that's not the problem. But people have a problem with the idea of like that you pay in to vote. That's like weird for them. But just remember, we do that all the time here in Israel.
It's also like a donation. That's your way of putting money into the system that goes to different places.
No taxation, no representation without taxation is the other side of no taxation
right.
without representation.
Right.
So
if I could, I would do it. Let's put it that way.
But we're
because
not
I live in
to.
Israel, where I'm not eligible.
Right. And because we have our regular vote. So I want everybody to really send me also hashtag I voted. Get in there, folks. And I'm doing my part to get the vote out and to really help Israel. You can really do it. Just take those few seconds. The other thing I wanted to tell you, Malkah, before I forgot, there's two more little things.
Okay.
One is that I spoke with Rabbi Mike Feuer on the previous half.
Yeah.
We talked about this Shabbat, and I know that he makes a lot of the food in his house. And I forgot to mention to you that I mentioned to him that I think there should be special foods for this Shabbat that have something to do with the splitting of the Red Sea, like split pea soup, or
just a lot of fish. Really,
he called it split sea soup. Okay, yeah, right. Is that good? Split sea soup.
That's cute.
So that's something that I wanted you to think about.
I like split pea soup.
And there's
kids will not like it.
There's also manna.
Oh, those little vaflim.
But I want you to maybe make some kind of
white
dessert.
Fluffy thing?
Yeah, that's like manna.
Like it.
I want you to
That's cute.
And I want you to surprise them or something
like
that in the morning. They should wake up in the morning on Shabbat and get the manna.
Ooh, maybe we should buy some like cotton candy, and we'll like put little fluffs of it around.
I'm feeling more like marshmallow fluff with what do you call it? Rice Krispie treat, So I like that's what I'm thinking.
You want a Rice Krispie treat?
That's what I would like, a Rice Krispie treat. I'd like that. Okay.
Okay, Yishai.
One more mention here is that today's show is dedicated to the parents of the father of our good friends Arthur and Amy, and it's Amy's father, whose name was Avraham Ben Meir HaKohen. That's a beautiful name.
Ben Meir HaKohen.
This is his 11th yortzeit.
Wow.
And today's show is dedicated to him.
His neshama should really go up.
He was an awesome man. He was generous. He cared about Jewish education, about poverty.
Wow.
He was in the Navy. He was a lawyer, a businessman.
Wow,
and,
a real
and a
winner.
great-grandfather, but he sadly passed away. So today's show is dedicated to him.
Wow.
And
I'm so honored.
That's right. And he went down too young. We miss him.
Oy.
Chaval. But in any case, his neshama keeps going, and today's thinking and Torah learning goes in his name.
Go in his merit. So speaking of in that case, I want to extra say what I'm about to say.
But don't forget, like with this moment that I talked about this, you're going to talk about something very serious before you lock into something that you're about to say.
I just want to go back to something we were talking about.
And I just want to say, can we just lock in that Rice Krispie thing?
Yeah, Rice Krispie.
Okay,
I'm missing Rice Krispie.
Okay, so
Rice Krispie.
Okay, that's it.
I think it's in there.
But then again, now like fast forward past Rice Krispie, and we remember the dedication of the show today.
Yes.
but also we have to pray for the people who were injured in yet another terrorist attack yesterday. We had 14. Was it 14?
It was 12. It was 12, I think, in one serious. I think it was 13. There are updates.
Golani soldiers were standing.
Golani, some of the toughest, most patriotic soldiers in Israel.
Yeah, but even tough soldiers, when they get rammed with a car, are going to get hurt. And they were standing yesterday at a bus stop in Jerusalem after a very long night at the Western Wall. I know exactly which bus stop it is. I'm there all the time. I must have been there yesterday, and they were attacked with a car ramming. Ostensibly because of the deal of the century, but
well, there was also an incident yesterday in Hebron.
That's right.
In which an Arab who was throwing firebombs at soldiers got shot as a result, and he died. So, and he was 17 years old.
That's right.
So I think that might have been a reprisal.
Right, and my tweet on that was, you throw Molotov cocktails, that's an invitation for you to give up your life. You want to kill a Jew, you get that boomerang back at you, and that guy's a terrorist, and he's dead now. But, and this is an important but here, that boy that was shot and killed yesterday is a victim, not of Israeli aggression, not of Israeli occupation, but of brainwashing, of child abuse from the age of 0, being taught to hate Israel. And so
and
therefore,
being taught that this kind of act of going out in the street and throwing fire at people is somehow a heroic thing to do.
So let's say
paid with his life.
Let's say Mishaberach to we pray for those soldiers who were injured yesterday. And if we're going to also think locally, but we also want to think globally a little bit, there's a lot of people out there in the world who have contracted this coronavirus.
Yes, but I wanted to say the thing that I wanted to say first before you took me away to Rice Krispies, which is I just want to say that if there are people, I don't want it to be that people feel from our last conversation that they should not vote for Netanyahu. I'm concerned that after our conversation, people will say, well, we should not vote for him, right? And that is not what we're saying. We're not suggesting that you should not vote for him or that he is inept or that he will not annex land. It's simply a concern, right? It's something that we don't know. Surely better to vote. I think that I'll probably be voting for the nationalist parties, the right-wing nationalist parties, because I consider that a vote for Prime Minister Netanyahu as well. But certainly a vote for Likud is infinitely better than a vote for blue and white, where we know that they will take the plan, the deal of a century plan, and try to create a Palestinian state out of it.
We don't know that.
We
don't know that.
We could be pretty confident about it.
Surmise that that's what's going to be.
Right, we could be pretty confident.
But you can't know of that for sure because they haven't said it.
Fair.
Okay, Malkah, you've made your point.
Fair.
You've made your point. And
I just
also,
wanted to, yes.
There's another month till elections. We'll learn more.
Not even a month.
Of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu, nobody's going to take away his great merits and great successes. But the question is, no, certainly not. Certainly not. He's a man that has done
and I know
great
people, and there are
things.
people in my family who will be voting for Likud, and I do not think that is a crazy
Also,
vote.
can I just actually, I want to disambiguate something that you said. In fact, it irked me a little bit what you just said, and I'll explain why.
Well, I don't know if you're getting the Rice Krispie treats.
No. I didn't mean that kind of irked. I mean just a little tiny irked. It's a general irk. It's not yours. Voting Likud is not just voting Netanyahu. That's what we've been led to believe.
Definitely true.
There are great Knesset members in the Likud who are strong and
You're so right.
I'm always amazed that they allow themselves to be such
minimized.
Yeah, minimized. What is it what is this one guy alone? And I don't like the idea. What do we have a fiefdom here? I don't like this consciousness.
Right.
You have a party of 30 Knesset members, ministers. Give them some
right,
cover.
And many of them have done great things for Israel and defended Israel a million times and gone out and represented the people very honorably.
Right, okay.
You're so right. Thank you for clarifying
that. Malkah, coronavirus.
But I want to say, yes, all this is very difficult, but at least we don't have coronavirus.
Not yet.
Well, the coronavirus, so I'm not usually such a conspiracy theorist. I tend to be kind of practical. There's something weird about this coronavirus to me. I can't help it, right? It's
a conspiracy made by the vaccine people.
No, so I totally believe that there is a coronavirus. Clearly, there is something happening, right there. But I just can't understand what all this quarantining. Now, I read a little bit about coronavirus in preparation.
Are you saying this is a wag the dog thing? You think it's all being done in a warehouse?
Oh, that's interesting. No, I had not thought of that. What I was thinking is that it's actually a far worse virus than what they're saying. That it's actually like there are more people dying and it's much more severe than they're letting on, which is why they're kind of freaking out and everybody's wearing face masks. And so I read about coronavirus this morning. I mean, we have all kinds of news, right? For example, there are these Israelis. I hate when this stuff happens. There are these Israelis. They're stuck on a ship called the Diamond Princess. It's a beautiful cruise ship anchored off the Yokohama port in Yokohama near Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
And it was just supposed to be a nice vacation.
Oh, man.
But it turns out that there were like 10 to 20 people with coronavirus up in there. And so they have quarantined this boat and they say that everyone has to be on it for like they took off the like very sick people to quote unquote hospital.
Yeah.
And then they, whatever that means in today's era. And,
oh my gosh.
and then they told everyone else that they have to stay on the boat for 14 days, but they can't stay on the boat for 14 days. They have to stay in their room for 14 days. They're not allowed to go in the hall. Nothing.
You mean they can't gamble, go to the pool?
They can't wait, it's bad. There's like 14 Israelis on this boat. That's why it's news for us, right? There's 14 Israelis on the boat. Some of them like need like prescription medications and stuff. And they're like, we do not bring 14 days worth of prescription medication on this cruise. And they're just like, they're all stuck in their rooms. They're like, my room is really nice, but the room service has stopped coming. Like stuff like that. Like they're like, I don't know. They're going to make a movie out of it. I'm sure they're like all have to stay in their room for 14 days.
Man, that is really wickedly bad.
There's that. There's also so this was also a weird story to me. This is why I don't understand, because everything's so weird. There's a new hospital in Khan Yunis, which is in Gaza, right? The Gazans built themselves a hospital.
Is that the video of them building a hospital in 10 days?
No,
that was
in
China.
Wuhan. Okay, is that weird? In China, they're like, they built a 1,000 bed hospital in 10 days. That's not normal. None of that is normal. Why do they have to build this hospital in 10 days? What's inside the hospital? Who's going to the hospital? I don't understand what's going on. It's like a very, very, like, why was this such a profound emergency? And they can set it up in 10 days, by the way. Like, they get all the equipment. They train all the nurses. Like, what?
The oxygen's in the wall.
Yeah, the plugs. Like, I don't understand how that works, okay? But they apparently built a hospital in 10 days. In Khan Yunis, they have a new hospital, which was not built for the coronavirus.
Yes.
Apparently, it was built by Algeria. Now, it turns out that Hamas, which controls Gaza, decided to leave it empty to isolate coronavirus patients. And the people of Gaza are like, what the heck? We need this hospital. Like, we need a hospital. Like, start doing the hospital thing because we need a hospital. And there was like a fight outside. There was like the crowd broke into the hospital. And how do you protest the non-opening of a hospital in Gaza? You start smashing the medical equipment, right? Which is counterintuitive because one would think you want that to be working. But they start to go in there and like destroy stuff inside the hospital because they're like, we need this hospital. But Hamas is like, we need it for coronavirus patients. In the meantime, there are no coronavirus patients allegedly in Gaza. I don't know. It turns out that now they say that the death toll of this thing is like 560 or so people. But then there was some report yesterday that was like shrouded in all this. No one's reporting it suddenly, where there was some recordation of like 25,000 deaths, like some I don't know. But Israel's trying to help out with the coronavirus. A couple things Israel's doing. One is that the Sheba Medical Center launched a telemedicine program this week to help people be treated by like robots, like through basically what
Israel is sending robots to cure the coronavirus, which the Jews actually launched.
What it is basically is like, let's say you're in a like these people
Malkah
are in quarantine.
Is that what's going on here?
I'm just reading the Jerusalem Post here. The basically what it is like, let's say that you're like in quarantine and you unfortunately got the coronavirus, which it turns out, so wait, okay, there's a lot to say. Basically, the coronavirus, it gives like every single person, what's the problem with coronavirus? Big problem is it gives every single person pneumonia.
Okay.
That's the difference between that and the flu. I was trying to understand, why is this coronavirus a thing? Like, why is it more significant than the flu? If the flu killed, they say in America, killed like 10,000 people this last flu season, which seems outrageous, but that's what they're saying. 10,000 people died as a result of the flu. So if coronavirus killed 560 people, that's not even like a drop in the bucket, you know, compared to the flu. But it turns out that it gives people pneumonia. Everybody, like 99% of people get pneumonia. Now, of course, you can recover from pneumonia. But anyway, so let's say you're in quarantine and you do not, you don't want anyone else to get pneumonia. So they like send in a robot with your food. They send in a robot with your medication. They can send in a robot with a like a blood pressure machine. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot that you can do to treat a patient.
I have not seen a
which is not at the
yet.
hands of a human being.
Okay.
So they're trying to use something called a Vici or VC telemedicine solution designed by a California-based virtual healthcare company called InTouch Health. And it looks like a robot. It can enter the infected person's room and be controlled by doctors or nurses from the outside.
Wow.
It can monitor vital signs like the heart rate. That's exactly what I was saying.
Wow.
So it's a way to protect the hospital staff. It's not doing surgeries by itself. You know what I'm
Not
saying?
yet.
But it's like it can do some simple things that minimize the contact between medical staff and people with bad infections.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's in China a few Chabad houses. And
That's
they're
right.
like nervous too, right? So you have this organization. It's called IsraAid, which is famous for going around the world and providing like emergency services and healthcare services and looking for people and all kinds of stuff that they need in emergencies. And Magen David Adom sent a big package of emergency kits, 2,000 masks.
Wow.
They're concerned that they're like running out of these face masks in China. And 200 full protection kits. I think that's like a bodysuit.
Right.
And they're sending special suits, masks, glasses, shoes, hat covers. I wonder what a Chabad hat cover looks like in an emergency. Will be distributed at 14 Chabad house branches in China. I didn't even know there were so many.
Wow.
And they sent like on the last plane from Tel Aviv to China. Like, I think they're shutting down all travel between Israel and China. They sent this like big nagla, this big
Nagla is a Hebrew word
for
a round,
like a bunch,
a bundle.
Yeah. Anyway, they sent this package. Yeah. They sent over to China to help with this coronavirus.
Wow.
So I'm pretty excited.
Okay,
so
I
don't think I would do well in a coronavirus.
Okay, let's.
I don't really want to get coronavirus.
No, and let's wish a refuah shlema to all the people who have this disease, and really also. So let's pray to Hashem for refuah shlema. This thing shouldn't spread anymore, and really give people health. The other thing is, number one suggestion is wash your hands.
Right. That's is what they're saying. The doctors are basically saying, don't touch your face.
Right.
Don't touch your food unless you've washed your hands.
Right. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Wash your face.
And my mom says to wash the nostrils a little bit. Like the hairs on the nostrils, just a little nosy wash.
Cleany.
When you're washing your hands with a little
Stick
soap,
your fingers up your nose.
Yeah, a little bit, and that does a lot. So that's what my mom says. But if you guys have any other health alternatives, you can of course write to us. We'd love to hear from you. My email is yishai@thelandofisrael.com, and I'll forward anything to Malkah. Let's the whole world.
Well, we need some health. Basically,
we need health.
We can't be plagued.
That's right.
We need to get healthy. In the spirit and in the body.
That's right. We need, instead of plagues, we need to be done with plagues and into Exodus.
Hey, plagues.
Plagues. It's plagues. It's plagues. It's Pashut plagues.
Whoa.
There are plagues in the world, and there's a little bit of darkness, and some of the firstborns are going down. Some of the big leaders, and we got to go through all that and get to Exodus, get to the Mount Sinai, get the Torah. All of us out there, all of us,
we're all
need to get the Torah.
That.
And then we need to come to the land of Israel and really make it all happen, which is the Garden of Eden, which is to really fix the Garden of Eden and make it whole again. All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleisher Show. Thanks again to everybody. Thanks to Moshe Herman, to Ben Bresky, and to Tabitha for getting the show out. Thank you to Rabbi Mike Feuer. Thank you to Malkah Fleisher. Thank you to Hashem for the opportunity to broadcast to you. Thank you, wherever you are, and thank you for listening to the land of Israel as the song of the land of Israel is being sung, as Hashem is bringing back the Jewish people to the land of Israel, as the Torah is being spread to the world, and you're a part of it wherever you are. Shalom and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Josh Haston here, host of Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Radio Network at thelandofisrael.com. Make sure you check out my show every Monday, bringing you the news unfiltered and uncensored, information that you are not getting anywhere else, especially not in the mainstream media.
Israel